I'm on a mission to find one of these. I am on game number 6. For today's video, I'm continuing my trend of trying to play things that are at least slightly more competitive than what I've been showcasing recently. And with that in mind, I realized I had not yet done a video with Vlad and Braum. Now, this is a list that in the past had always been kind of considered a meme list, but it's pretty well positioned in the new meta, especially when you combine it with some of the new tools that we received in the most recent expansion. And I know that my buddy Panda, for example, had a lot of success on the ladder with it. Trickster had some success at a tournament with versions of this, and I'll talk about what some of the differences are at times when people are playing this list, because there is not a definitive, like, refined cookie cutter build quite yet, though the core is mostly the same throughout. And so with that in mind, I'm going to go through the deck list. As always, deck code will be in the video description, link to Mobalytics video description. The time tags will be on the video, so if you have not already and you want to just jump to the games, you can do that. But we're going to start with Crimson Bloodletter. This little gem here is one of the new additions from Empires of the Ascended, and it's a very solid 1-drop. It is a 1/2 on turn 1, but essentially after that, it serves as an activator and it becomes a nice cost-effective 2/3 for the price of 1 mana. So we absolutely run 3 of these. We'd love to get this as an opener. We also have 2 copies of 3 Sisters, because this is very versatile in this list. There are times when you want to flash freeze, maybe you want to stop that atrocity. Fury of the North is actually really solid on a couple of your targets, both to keep them alive, but also so that you can maybe have Braum trade into things if you haven't got Scargrounds up and going yet. And then Entomb is like a stun, but it can provide some other benefits as well. Save your own units if you really want to go that far. So this is just a nice versatile inclusion. Again, new card from the most recent expansion. 2 copies of Disciple. This is mostly just because you want, you know, something to potentially play on 2, though a lot of times you're banking spell mana on 2, but it can be a source of, you know, a little jab here or there. Sometimes it's enough to just finish off your opponent. So this is a nice inclusion as well, but it's really just trying to help out this curve a bit, because as you can see, we're pretty heavy on 3, and this gives us some options that are a bit less in value, not value, cost. All right, Death Lotus. This is a great card in the current meta for the same reason that Ice Shard is a great card in the current meta, and that's because obviously Twisted Fate Fizz. There's also Azir decks that you run into. It's a solid combat trick. It's fast, speed, but because this hits all battling units, and because Ice Shard hits everything, these are also great activators for Scargrounds and for some of your other units like Scar Mother. So once you have Scargrounds up and running, not only do these then no longer hurt your own units, but these serve as like a board-wide buff for you. These become, I hurt opposing units, but I also buff your board, and that is very relevant. And so we include 3 copies of both. Troll Chant, really great combat trick, helps keep your stuff alive, helps keep you alive. Pretty straightforward. That's a 3 of. Crimson Curator. We don't really have traditional card draw in this list, so this is kind of your source of card draw. This is very similar to what like a River Shaper would be in a Fiora Shen list. The only difference is obviously River Shaper is finding you spells from your deck, and those have a certain amount of value. This is giving you the random Crimson units. If you're not familiar, you can always right click the card and go through. So it can create copies of itself, can give you the 5/5 for 4, Aristocrat, and then finally Disciple. So a bit of a limitation on what you can get, but it's really just there to make sure you keep getting bodies in that kind of early to mid game portion of the game, so that you can make sure you don't get overran if you have not drawn your board wipes. So again, if it's a very aggressive list and you don't have Death Lotus, you don't have Ice Shard, etc., maybe Curator helps you stall long enough till you get those tools. 2 copies of Scorched Earth. This is sometimes a 1 of in this list. I like it as a 2 of just because this is a deck that has a really bad matchup against Tahm Kench Soraka, because you're trying to ping everything and that just helps them out. So having some extra insurance for Star Springs is nice, but also against some of your bigger units, if you don't have your Scargrounds active early and you need to stall for time, this can be a really helpful tool in that regard. So I like this as a 2 of. Sometimes when this is a 1 of, it might be Bladed Ravine, and that's because Bladed Ravine is just another copy of Avalanche, but it also does some things for you. Bladed Ravine dodges Spell Shield, for example. Avalanche does not. Speaking of Avalanche, that's here as well. We got 3 copies of that. Falls into the same category as Ice Shard and Lotus in that it can be a self buff for you and a board clear for your opponent. So we run it. Scargrounds. This is kind of the entire point of this list. Yes, we've got Braum, we've got Vlad. We'll cover them in a minute, but really this is the superstar here. So you want to make sure you find at least one Scargrounds. I usually am hard mulliganing for this. There are, some cards I might keep, I might keep like a Bloodletter, things like that, but you really want to find a Scargrounds. And then the rest are kind of matchup dependent. Braum is great because you're doing a lot of damage to everything, so that helps level him up. And then once he's leveled, you start making Poros. Poros are a great end game unit for you because they have Overwhelm. And if your Scargrounds is active and then all of your pings start buffing them, their attack goes higher and higher, and then they serve as your kind of finisher at times. Now, Vlad can also be a finisher. Other units can be a finisher, but Braum is great in that regard. Braum is also great because it has the Challenger keyword. So again, once you have Scargrounds active, Braum with the regen going to be diving in, hopefully removing units once his attack starts going up, and so that's nice as well. Tarkaz, this is currently a 2 of, but this unit is great in this list. 5/8 for 5 is solid stats, and then you turn what is normally supposed to be a drawback in that he hurts himself when he attacks into a bonus, because this really reads every time I attack, I buff my entire board if I have a Scargrounds on the board. So again, you got to find Scargrounds, but this card is great with it. Vlad is also like Tarkaz here, and this is probably why you're only running 2 copies of this, because Vlad, very similar, but has the upside of being a champion, does the draining. The drain is a great way to keep your Nexus alive, and then also deals that direct damage to the opponent's Nexus. So, I've talked about potential finishers. Vlad is like the big one because you're just smacking their Nexus and keeping your own alive. Scar Mother. This is another card that is sometimes a different choice. I've seen this be Alpha Wildclaw, for example. I like both of them. It's really just kind of a preference and whether you're swinging for upside. So pure upside, then Scar Mother is technically better, but it takes longer to get there. A Scar Mother, you've got a Scargrounds on the board, right? A Scar Mother plus 2 pings ends up being net better or on par with your Wild Claw, but then every ping after that, she is significantly better. But Wild Claw is just a nice solid 7/6 overwhelm the moment you play it. You don't need to activate it. You don't need Scargrounds. And so it's a much safer choice. For today's video, we're going to be rocking Scar Mother because I wanted to kind of go all in on the theme, but I do really like Wild Claw here as well. And then the last card in the list is Basilisk Bloodseeker. This is, again, Overwhelm, really important as another finisher in this list because of your Scargrounds buffing things up. And then this also says you deal 1 to an ally and to an enemy 4 times when you play this. So if Scargrounds is on the board, what really happens is you deal 1 to an ally, it gets the Scargrounds effect, and then because this is 4 times, the next 3 don't do anything to your unit because Scargrounds has given your unit tough. And so really this is, you buff your own unit, you deal 1 to your unit, and then you buff it. It gets from the Scargrounds here +4 +0, and then you also deal 4 damage to an enemy unit. This has Overwhelm, so that is again really big positive here. Now this card is great on something like a Curator if you're running low on cards, because this also means that you are Scargrounds plus Curator plus Basilisk, you're about to flood your own hand while buffing your Curator. So just win-win-win all the way around, and that's the list. So with that in mind, we're going to go play a couple games so you can see the deck in action, and we'll do that now. This could be a little bit rough. We are jumping into our first game here against what is going to be Overwhelm. Like the Bloodletter opener, definitely throwing these back, though the flash freeze off of this can come in handy. The real question is whether or not I want to hold on to Braum because it can be a nice blocker against certain parts of this list, or whether we want to throw this back in search of the Scargrounds as well. I think we're going to keep the Braum here. It's a bit risky to do so, though. We'll go ahead and open with our Bloodletter. We'll also take this block. That's fine. Do we want to go with a round 2 Disciple here and try to push damage? We kind of have a forward hand. We don't really have any flashy tricks here. We don't have a reason to bank spell mana, which is normally what we would do with this list. So I think we go ahead and we take this. It gives us a pair of 2/2s, get some damage in, and if they don't have a 2-drop, then we can push. This is a bit scary, so I'm not gonna sugarcoat it, gang. If they start with double Omen Hawk and they didn't draw units off of that first one, once they start rolling into these +2/+2s, we're gonna have a bad time. We're still just straight a curve deck at the moment, though.
Come here, handsome.
Hello, dear. What have you got us into now?
If they attack, I actually think we take this block with the Curator, even though we lose a unit. I think that taking that trade even is fine. We can push some damage with our open attack here. And then develop Braum after the fact. Preservarium. So they likely just have a ton of top end and huge units off these Omen Hawks, and I have to say that's a bit spooky for me. And if they didn't have them before, they certainly have them now with the double Preservarium play. So at some point, big units are oh, thank God, big units are coming down. And I was just about to say how happy I am that we are running multiple copies of Scorched Earth to potentially deal with them. Our concern at the moment would be something like Exhaust. And so I don't want to play Vladimir here until post. Yep, so here's the first one. Until post combat, I don't think. Unfortunately, our Braum is gonna bite it if there's an Exhaust. Like, there's nothing we can do about it. Interesting. So we could use something like Braum's Take Heart to try to force a trade here, but then anything like a Troll Chant causes problems. We might actually just be in the business of taking this 10 as much as I don't want to, and then developing our Vlad. I think that's exactly what we're going to do. I think we're going to do that and develop the Vlad. That gives us some more flexibility with what to do next round. We'll have 6 mana for both the Earth and the Take Heart. Braum will be triggering off of the Vlad. So that we can also use the Take Heart on the Braum. Transfusion gives us some flexibility as well. But like if we do something like this, deal 1 to an ally for +2/+2, and then we'll have the Take Heart here potentially as well. They still have a ton of mana here though. Yeah, let's do it this way.
I will run you over.
They still need a combat trick of sorts to get to where they're killing my Vlad, just because this is going to trigger first, which will level up Vlad. And we're going to try to throw the take heart here, I think, just to push extra damage. So they're gonna keep their unit alive. So if we do it this way, we get them down to 3, but we still have the disciple alive to maybe get some pokes in with something like... Let's figure out they had 2 troll chances. Well, at least now we know what was clogging up their hand. But that's a bit of a bummer, because now our disciple's going to be a little bit more difficult to get that damage in with. We'll see how this goes. We haven't found a Scargrounds yet, which is part of the problem. We would like to have gotten one down early and then started scaling. We don't have the ability to do that. This is not a buffed unit. We've only seen the one buffed unit so far. Another combat trick is nice. Actually could try to level up our Braum.
Leave nothing standing.
This is interesting because they've got enough mana for a Fury. But usually you want to use that on an Overwhelm unit, and they only have the one Overwhelm unit at the moment, so... Oh, there's the Fury. Okay.
Watch me.
Or we get the surrender. Okay, well, game 1 in the books. Let's dive into another and maybe see if we can find Scargrounds. Not expecting that. All right. Game started, y'all caught me drinking tea. It's actually tea this time. I'm normally a coffee guy, but it is actually legitimately tea this time. So this is championless Shadow Isle Shurima. I have to assume this is just hard aggro then, where they've just decided to not even run a Zir. I mean, I guess it could be some sort of weird Undying list, but usually if I see this feels like a Zir aggro. So we're gonna keep all of this time around, so that we can potentially wipe the board a few times. As I was about to say, it's actually not coffee this time. But if Simba's uncle were to start a coffee company, if Simba's uncle were, just throwing this out here hypothetically, to grind some coffee beans, you would have Scargrounds. Now, I do not feel bad about making that joke, because so far we're playing a Scargrounds list and we actually haven't found a Scargrounds, so that joke might be legitimately the only Scargrounds you get for this entire game. I think this is just a pass. We don't need to attack into it. We've got our defensive options with things like Death Lotus and whatever. They might take an open attack here, at which point we would probably block and pop a Lotus. These are annoying, but at some point we're gonna have to deal with them anyway. So there's no reason to, in my opinion anyway, no reason to not pop them at some point. They still have 5 cards though. All right, so there's one popped. Makes me feel a little bit better. about having the Braum here. Though if we want to use a Death Lotus, Braum can't block this anyway, so we might be eating that. Unless we just decide to sacrifice this for the greater good. I think that's actually the better play. So I think you take the pass here. Onlooker. Thankfully, this is Shurima and not with Demacia, so we don't have to worry about something like Ranger's Resolve. I think the better question is, do we want to kill this prey as well with our Ice Shard or just take the Lotus? This is going here, one way or the other. 3 cards left. I guess this goes here so that we can be super greedy. Let's just go with the Lotus for now. So that trade goes through, but we got another Curator out of it. We still have this one as well. So we develop one. They do the Bark Beast thing. He's at 4. This could be a list that runs something like Mark of the Isles, for example. So just to be safe. I think we actually can just hard attack here because we have the troll chance as well. But we want this first so that if anything dies, this doesn't get the buff plus like a Mark of the Isles. None of that nonsense. We'll go ahead and do this. Gives us a Bloodletter. Okay. Next round, we're gonna have what? 6 mana. So I think I'm fine with preemptively developing this, just so we have more insurance. I mean, honestly, like Doom Beast / Prankster Burn is maybe the only way that we end up losing this at this point. We could just avalanche this here, but I really like the Curator into an Ice Shard play on the blocks. And we get a surrender. Okay, so maybe we'll play another, since I haven't even seen Scargrounds. That was fast. Ew. Fiora Zed. This feels awful. All right, so here's the thing, gang. I don't normally do this. Like I'll just play like a couple games and I don't really care if we win or lose. We just have a good time. But at this point, what you need to know is I'm on a mission. I'm on a mission to find one of these. I am on game number 6 trying to find one of these. We finally found one because I just want to play a game where Scargrounds is there. I don't care if we win or lose this. I just needed to play a game where I find the actual Scargrounds. Now we've done it.
By my honor.
All right, they have a Fiora. Yeah, let's go ahead and do this. She can challenge into anything she wants, but we have the troll chant here. It's just kind of a shame because I wanted this down before we activated that, but I wanted to put her off. Problem is now she has like riposte mana, and now we don't have anything like our lotuses or whatever, so I think that we are also just passing here, which is a bit of a bummer. All right, got a Bloodseeker though. So we will try to stay alive. Again, I fully expect more. Yep, there's the standalone. So it looks like this is basically gonna be mono Fiora, but also a Zed. Like it's the old standalone list, which I find interesting.
You small
Cataclysm, sure. We're gonna finally find a Scargrounds. We're just gonna lose to a Mono Fiora because I won't be able to find Scorched Earth now. Like that's just gonna be, it's just gonna be the way that it works. Interesting. I can't even attack now properly.
We'll take what we want. The rest will burn.
This would take him down to 7 health with toughness, up to 6 attack. Not enough to finish him off. Finish her off. I was gonna say she's just gonna pass with the mana. I don't know, gang. I think I'm still supposed to take this attack. I think we're still supposed to take that attack. I don't think we have a lot of agency either way, like win or lose, so unless they were just trying to wait and now they're gonna drop Spirit on it. So like I said, this feels very Mono Fiora-y.
Strike without worry.
We still, for the record, have not found a Scorched Earth, and that will cost us the game. So they probably have what, a single combat here, a Cataclysm, something. Such a shame. What an absolute shame that this is how it's gonna go down. Cataclysm plus what? Like the quick attack? I'm trying to think this through. I mean, I think you do this because this gives us the best chance at an open attack victory.
Another fine scar.
Wow. All right. Well, we found a Scargrounds. You got to see the combo. This is why you run Scar Mother, but turns out I'm just not meant to actually pilot this list the way that it's meant to. I can get wins without Scargrounds, and then when we find it, like 6 games later, we just lose to Mono Fiora because that's the way the cookie crumbles. Anyway. Made it this far. I appreciate you. Thanks for watching, and until next time, may you walk on warm sands. What a bummer. At least we found a Scargrounds, though.